murle and go where dog and wait a moment, wait a moment, it's your way. Don't let we die, don't let we die. I want it down your bang. Say you know to go to it, don't let. A man and bless your mother, don't let we die, don't let we die, don't let we die. I want it down your bang. Say you know to go to it, don't let. A man and bless your mother, don't let.
All right. Welcome. Well, I think it's about time for us to begin our program for today. If anybody is watching us live and can hear us, please confirm that you can hear us. Can somebody confirm that you can hear us? All right.
Yeah,
All right.
we're good.
It's good to see all of you who are already live with us, and we expect more people to join us. Maybe in the next few minutes. This panel discussion will not take very long. I try to make it as brief as possible. So we have so many things to do on the weekend, and we understand that we are all busy or you are all busy. So we will try to wrap it up in approximately 45 minutes to about 1 hour. So I know most of the shows uh, go for about 3 hours or even more than 3 hours. I've seen a show that goes for 8 hours before, and I was wondering of exactly how they do it. So this show will be less than 2 hours. The longest it will take will be probably about 1 hour. So thank you for joining us. It's early morning in Canada. For those of us who are in North America, it's 8:53 right now in Canada. I mean in Vancouver or in Pacific time in Western Canada. Both I and my colleague Wesley Kosa are in the same province. We are in BC, which is British Columbia, Canada, and my two colleagues are joining us from Juba. We have two honorables that are joining us from Juba. Honorable Gabriel Malual is joining us from Juba. I believe the last time I talked to him, he was in Nairobi. You will confirm that to us if he's still in Nairobi or he went back to Juba. And then Honorable Pal is joining us from Juba for sure, that I know, unless if he traveled in the last 2 hours. So I would like to say thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you to our guests, the three guests that are joining us today. This will be a very intellectual and very interesting discussion. It will also be very humble because I believe most of us, or maybe the three of us, or maybe the three of you, are coming from the opposition's parties. So, which means your views should pretty much be almost on the same line. Although you're coming from from different parties, we did not succeed in getting one of the members, from the government side. We were hoping to at least have five uh, guests today, but at least we have three of you, which is a good number. So we will try to maybe host maybe one more show on the same topic, and then we can move to other topics. Without wasting much of your time, I would like to begin by introduction. So the person talking to you is Deng Elijah. As I said, I'm in Canada. Deng is somebody who has many hearts, but I would just talk under one heart today, which is the president of Gawar Global Community. Gawar Global Community is a community organization that comes from Ayut County in Jonglei State. I'm, I'm the global president because we have communities associations in different part of the world that subscribe to this community association. Some of you may know me under the brand of Nyamilapedia. That I'm also the founder and the current executive director. But you may also know me from other path of life, like my current work in the government of BC here in Canada, or from other things that I do in life. So either way, this is me. This is Deng Elijah. We have. I'm gonna go to my left first, or to my right. Which one is that? Is that my left or my right? Okay, to my left. To my left is the, Honorable Peter Pal, the former Anti-Corruption Commission in Jonglei State. Peter Pal is a colleague that I've known for some time. I've known him for more than 20 years. I usually say 30 years because it's very close to 30 years that I've known him. And he's somebody that was on this show not very long ago. He was here 2 weeks ago, but he discussed really good point that we were impressed to have him again. And the reason was that when you discuss, ideas from one perspective, it's very hard for the viewers, to tell if that would be the right argument or that would be the right idea at that time. So I had to convince Honorable Pal to come back to join us and share some of the views that he shared before. He doesn't really need to do any research or to change any of his previous answers. It would depend, since he will not be copy pasting from, maybe another platform. So it would be good for him to just tell us exactly whatever he had in mind. But we will have more questions today, and I'm very sure we will all benefit from having him. So thank you, Paul, and may you add more on your introduction. I don't want to take much, introducing the three of you. I will be happy, or our guests will be happy to, to hear directly from the host mouth. So Paul, please come first.
Well, thank you so much for the brief introduction. Just like you said, I'm Peter Pal Chuol. I worked in the past for South Sudan Anti-Corruption Commission in Jonglei State as the chairperson. That is an assignment that I left some years back, not very long ago. By profession, I can say I'm from human rights background because that is where my area of specialization is. I do write for newspapers, opinion writing and all that stuff on critical issues that affect, our people, and key policy issues that I feel that should be given the much needed attention. Apart from that, that's what I want the people to hear. And then the other thing that maybe that should have come first is I come from the SPLM-IO. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Paul. It was nice to hear from you. We will go to Honorable Malual Gabriel Kon. As some of you might have heard in the last show, that Honorable Malual was supposed to join us. Unfortunately, he had other commitment that could not allow him to join us that day. Honorable, is the Minister of Peace Building in Jonglei State on SPLM-IO ticket, and I would like him to add more. Honorable or Engineer Honorable Malual, please have the mic. Okay, you are on mute, so please. Okay. No,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Deng. To all the viewers or to all the listeners of Gower Global TV. My names are Malual Gabriel Kon. I'm the Jonglei State Minister for Peace Building and also a member of the SPLM-IO, who is also the chair of the Specialized Committee for Peace Building in Jonglei State. I've been the minister for the last 2.5 years, and we are still moving forward. By profession, I'm an engineer. But also, on the other hand, I also do writings, and I'm a politician, an active politician. So that's what I can say as per now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Malual. It was nice to hear from you. So next is my brother, Wesley Kosa. Wesley, I first met you, I believe, at the University of British Columbia a few years ago on the same discussion. It was a discussion on South Sudan, and I was happy to see you and to hear some of your perspective. They were really great perspective. It's nice to have you here again today, because I still believe it's been more than 8 years, since I met you, but I still believe you hold more critical and more advanced ideas on South Sudan. So it's nice to have you. Please have the mic and add a little bit more to your introduction.
Thank you, Brother Elijah. Thank you, all the brothers with us, Honorable Kon. And I'm extremely excited to share my view here with you guys regarding issues of our nation. My name, as all of you heard, is Wesley Kosa. I am the Secretary General of South Sudan National Movement for a Change. I am also an active member in NCF, the drafting committee actively participating. The issue of South Sudan, I extremely believe that all of us need to have a say. And if one have an opinion, then it's good for you to rise up with your opinion, join the team and discuss your opinion, not to lay back and just utter complaints and things are not moving. Because I believe if things are not moving in the right direction and we just complain, changes will never come. Changes only come when people or a person make a move, then changes come. So I'm glad to be here and I'm looking forward to effectively participate in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you to the three of you. Those are very well articulated, introduction. In the comment line there will be questions. If anybody has anything to ask or anything that they would like to be clarified, we will be discussing maybe we will be discussing three main topics today, or three main agendas, or three main ideas, which is on corruption, peace building, and then the first one will be on election. But before we talk about the three, I would like to visit some of the current affairs in South Sudan politics. And one of the most interesting idea is the decision that we saw in the last 1 week. Two major decisions. So one major decision was appointment of a new minister of finance. This appointment came in the middle of a budget that was being passed. Many people do not really know why the decision was made in the middle of a very important session like that, because I have a feeling that could have swayed the discussion in one way or the other. The other thing that happened was, in this discussion, we saw the SPLM-IO 2 days ago walk out of the parliament because they were not happy with some items in the budget. Specifically, the main item that they were not happy, or they did not want to be passed, was the idea of increasing salary of the military, or say the forces and the public servants. So the public servants in South Sudan are the poorly paid, or I would say they are not even paid. When you paid somebody who is working 30 days, a month, or say working 22 days a month and working throughout the year, and this person has been volunteering even before the independence of of the country, and now they're being paid, say, $5 or being paid $7. Those who are paid well would be paid in maybe $50 or $75. I haven't heard anybody making that much among the people that are getting this increment. The most that I've heard is like $20 when you do the math. But say even if they're paid $200 or they're paid $500, that is still underpaid, according to the payrolls that we know across the globe. This is a major issue, and the SPLM-IO took it to the next level when some of their members walk out of the parliament. I believe 17 members, and it was said those were not only SPLM-IO; they were a mix of SPLM-IO and maybe SOA members. SOA stands for South Sudan Opposition Alliance. So but this is not a rumor. It's something that we have seen on social media. It's something that we have seen on the news. So it has happened. I just want to begin by asking that question, or by putting that question to you on personal level. What would be your opinion if you were in this position? Say 17 people walk out because they think that was not the right decision. That is what they were protesting. Maybe to give you more more context, was that it was being proposed that the salary should be increased by 400%. Okay, think of 400%. That would be a huge increase if you were making good money. But because they're not making good money, the SPLM, I would think they should be increased 600%, not 400. And when that decision was read in the third, I think it was on the third reading on the 8th or on the 9th, it's it gave up that maybe that that is what was going to be approved or passed by the parliament. But it turned out that what was being passed was 400%, and that angered some members of SPLMIO that thought maybe 600% would be genuine, or should be the number, or it should be the figure that should be passed by the parliament. Now the question is, what would you do if you are in that situation? What do you think is the right decision? Was it right to increase the salary first by 400% or by 600%? And why 400 or 600%? It could have been 2,000%. It could be 1,000%. It could be 50%. So how were these numbers driven? If any of you would like to respond to that, I have no privilege or any preferences. So please go ahead. Any of you can respond to to that question. Is it right to increase by that number?
Yeah, I think I would like to come in.
Yeah, sure. Gabriel, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm not a member of the parliament. I am from the state, but as a citizen of this country and also as a politician in this country, there are some cross-cutting issues that needs all of us to think together. And such issues includes things to do with the budget, the security of the country, and other issues that a concerned citizen can respond to. I believe the parliament has been deliberating on the budget. They keep postponing due to this question of increment of the civil servants' salaries. To be honest, we as citizens of the Republic do not know what the finance makes. Even me, who is in the government, I do not know what is being made by the Ministry of Finance in Juba in total. We have got the revenue authority that collects the revenues, the non-oil revenues. We have the Ministry of Petroleum that make policies for the petroleum sector. And then we have the Ministry of Finance that has got also overall oversight on whatever that comes from non-oil, whatever that comes from infrastructure, whatever that comes from the petroleum. Finance knows everything about this. And as citizens, we were waiting to hear from finance about what our country makes annually, because it is not clear that, okay, we believe that the finance estimates what it makes annually. And with this, I think this is where the parliament or the opposition parties drive their decision from. I believe that the IO and the SOA members who walked out from the parliament during the discussion have got a clue on what is being collected in the country, whatever revenue that we have or whatever money that we have as a country. Because according to the paper that I saw, written by members who walked out of the deliberations, they say there's a report of an economic committee that shows that it is very, very important for the parliament to increase the salaries of the civil servants. We in the executives, we first discuss the budget before passing it to the parliament. This system is the same at the national and at the state. The executive in Juba passed 400% increment. Okay, 400% increment. If you do that mathematics, is roughly $11. Previously, grade 17 used to get $2. That is 2,000 $2.08. That is about 2,800 pounds. So when you increase it by 400%, it goes to 11,000 plus, which is still $11. Now, comrades, looking at the economic situation in our country, whereby $100 is 100 plus thousand pounds. If you go to the market, a sack of flour goes for 50,000 pounds, which is $50. If you want to buy charcoals or tomatoes, it goes beyond $10. Now, looking at a situation whereby you are paid $11 and you are expected to feed your family on this $11 for a full month. And sometimes also this $11 do not come on time. Sometimes the salary can delay to the 15th, to the 17th, especially for us who are in the States. We get salary sometimes at 11 on the 11th or on 15th of the month. So you have to go 1.5 months with a salary of $11. To me, we need to rethink as citizens of this country and as leaders of this country. Why we are having crises all over the country is because of the level of poverty we are in. People are unable to get something to eat. If I don't have food on my table today, I will try to cause chaos so that I can find something to eat. This is how some of our citizens think out there. If you look at our states, for example, Jonglei State, the crisis that we are having in Jonglei among our youth is due to poverty. It's due to lack of development. So I concur with the SPLMIO and SOA members that at the level of compromise, at least 600% is understandable, though we don't know where the money will come from. But we need to think as a country. We need to think as a country. We know that we have resources. If we don't produce enough oil, and then we need to increase production. Because I know we have billions of barrels still underground. I don't work in the petroleum, but I assume that we have billions of barrels still underground. What we need to do is to increase production. What we need to do is also to build a plant within the country so that we will be able to supply our neighboring countries with the oil. So we need to also focus on agriculture. Dr. John Garang said his plan was to embark on agriculture so that we can fund our petroleum sector with what we make from agriculture. And his estimation was that he expects this country to make $10 billion annually. I don't know whether we have forgotten that speech or we are not looking into what he has said. But this is very, very, very important. The equatorial line, the Barakazal line, the Upper Nile lands are very fertile. They can produce for us food. This land can produce for us foods that we can commercialize, we can export. Now we are depending on Uganda. For some of us who have been to Uganda, Uganda is a very hilly country. I did not expect Uganda to be the one feeding us as a country. If you go to Western Equatoria and see production in that area, you will be happy with the citizens of Western Equatoria. What they need is empowerment from the government. If you go to Awil, the land is very fertile and they are producing rice. They just need to be supported. So to me, we are not embarking on what can give us money. In fact, we are just waiting for the small money that comes into our accounts. And then priorities become hard, or the minister becomes, confused on what to prioritize. What I see here is that there's a confusion on what to prioritize, because we are seeing
Thank
CDF.
you. Thank you, Honorable Malual. If I were to cut you short, you just raised a
Yes.
very good point, a very important point. The point of increasing agricultural production. That is something that is on everyone's mind. And that is a topic that needs more time. I will come back to that question and I will ask you specifically on some of the ideas, and also to talk about peace, because there could be more factors to why our farmers or the local production is not booming. So let's come back to that question. I would like to pass the mic to Wesley Kosa on the same question, and then I will give it to to Comrade Pal afterward. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ledger. Thank you, comrades. The increase of salaries. Increase of salaries supposed to come when economy is doing well. When we have extra in economy, we have extra money that has come and we are doing well, then we say now the country is doing well, prospering well, and with this increase in our economic powers, let us give salaries to the citizens so that our gain will trickle down to citizens, so that the money will continue to circulate in the market. Our problem in South Sudan is not increase of salaries. Our problem in Sudan is layers of malfunctioning of the state, issues of corruption. We, the citizen, never know the revenues, how much the country is making. No transparency at all. If I ask each of you how much our oil is actually making, there will be no answer. Or if there's going to be any answer, it will be on imagination and it will not be based on the truth. How much we are making out of our revenues, non-oil revenues? No one will answer that, because everything about the country's economy is kept confidential. And that is where the problem is. If I will give a correct solution to that, is that the government is supposed to sit down and open up the country to the citizens. Just when you are in a family, there's your dad and your mom, and you don't know anything about the family, that family you're in. How do that family function? You don't know how much, you don't know the work your dad is doing, you don't know the work your mom is doing, you don't know how the family is being run, you don't know, everything is you're kept aloof. And I think the solution, the right solution, is first of all, put the country in a right economic path. Start by fighting the corruption. Transparency is key. Peace is major, because dividend of peace is prosperity, and that prosperity comes from economic growth. If there's no peace, economy will never grow. Economy will grow, but under tense and under a lot of hurdles. So Parliament, issues that are discussed in Parliament are completely off. Like you're discussing issue of salaries increase. You don't have regular salary payment to your people. How do you discuss increase? If you don't pay me for the last 6 months, 3 months, 4 months, 2 months, whatever length, and now you're discussing about salary increment, I would say you are from a different planet. Because the first thing, tackle the regular payment of your citizens. Everybody should get the salary in a regular time. And now, when that is done, then you come to discuss the increase. Because the regular payment of salary is because the economy is doing well. That is, you can afford to pay your citizens. And once you afford to pay your citizens, then you begin to look at what is the next step. If you have a better economic growth, better economic policies, and the economy is growing, then you will begin to think about increment of salaries. And that is appropriate. But the way our countries, we completely, our GTB is maybe minus. We don't have any tangible, workable economic policy that is working. We are in constant conflict. Country is not stable because of the current political situations whereby everyone feels outside the circle of authority, which is not a right thing. Every citizen is supposed to have a major say in how the country should be led. And now, because election is coming, the leadership think increase citizen hearing, increase of the money, salaries will then incite citizens to come and vote for the current leadership, for the current party, even though you do not see that money. But the president said, okay, now salary is going to be increased. Then they think that will then help, because the timing is not imaginable. The timing is calculated well, because now the country is talking about election. And this election, I call it sham election, because our country does not have the characteristics yet for election. But I will come into that when we
will
when
come
the
to that shortly. We'll come to
Yeah.
that shortly.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
what I'm trying to say is just let citizen know how much we are making, and continue to pay the citizen regularly. Then then you begin. Then after that, you discuss about bring the issue of increase of salaries. Thank you.
Those are very good point, Honorable Wesley. You know, those are what I call common sense. That's a package of common sense. A common sense should be asking, how are you going to go from this point to this point? Because if if you don't know the road, or if you don't have the means to go from point A to point B, it will be impossible. The question of increasing somebody's salaries, when you haven't paid that somebody for 6 months, and then that person, you expect them to be happy with the increment when you already have the debt to clear, right? Even in a family-owned business, the moment you make good money, you come to your employees and tell them, we are doing well, and therefore I'm giving you guys bonuses, and therefore I'm increasing your payment. Okay, your salary will be increased because this is how much we have made. So the question of transparency is very important. The question of how well the economy is doing is very important. So the citizen needs to ask this question first. Otherwise, these are false promises. How do you promise somebody that I'm going to increase your payment when you haven't paid that person? When you already know that there are embassies that are closed down in different countries that are not even, are not being open. So we need to address multiple factors first before we come to this conclusion. But that was a very good summary. You talk of a very important point, the call for election. We will come back to that in a few minutes. Honorable Paul, please, if you would like to to add your opinion on the question that the 600 or 400 increment or whatever number it is, what do you think?
Well, I think a lot have been touched on the same issue. In my own personal opinion, I believe the parties that are wrangling over this issue, including the one that I come from, are trying to score political point. And by that I mean, when the SPLM say yes, it feel appropriate for IO to say no. And when IO say no, then the SPLM also that they take the stand of a yes. We will not dwell much on this, but if you look at it critically, even the increment, the increment that is advocated for by the opposition MPs, if you look at that, it's not even in line with the existing market realities. So that tell you all, they're pulling a string, and either side, even if you were to go by what the opposition are advocating for, that is still not enough even for the common man. There is a lot of, the inflation is high. Living standard is really, really expensive for the ordinary. So now there is pulling of rope over a very trivial issue. And just to go back to what Honorable Malual said, and even Comrade Wesley touched on, it's hard to argue when you do not have the existing fact. Here we have a country where the resources, are kept by a few individuals. Let's say we are even kept in the dark. We do not know how much revenues that come from the oil, the non-oil revenues. So now even the opposition MPs, I doubt if there is anyone with correct figures. I can tell you, their decision will always be informed by that assumption. Yes, we have oil, and this oil is produced. The production is bringing incomes. Then maybe from non-oil revenues we are getting this. Therefore, we assume this figure must be there. So it's a very hard task to pursue. I understand why the opposition also took that point, because they are fighting for reform, and that do not necessarily have to remain on paper. They have to show it through the action, and I applaud that. Even if I were to be with them, I will take the same stand, because that will portray that image that, okay, here, I'm better than this party because this is what I'm offering. But it's really sad that what they are offering, even if it were to be given, will not solve anything. And then the other thing would be the way RCs is designed, this peace agreement. It also encourage this collegial engagement. The numbers is not an issue per se. Who has the majority in parliament, because I think that is what the government took advantage of. Like, they have the number, even if you walk away, will still pass the legislation. Even the presidency, if there is a deadlock on an issue, it encourages that spirit of collegial discussion. You come together, not necessarily taking advantage of the number. So I applaud what the opposition MPs have done, because that was also an alarm. It was not about figures, but it has also something to do with the attitude of the SPLM. That was an alarm bell, although it was triggered by the increment issue. but it also has to do with the attitude of the SPLM. It was an alarm bell that the SPLM is walking away from that collegial engagement with the rest of the party, and now is doing things unilaterally, sidelining the rest of the party. But generally, it's a trivial issue that has to do with transparency, because you have to get to know how much resources do we make for us to increase the salary of the civil servant. The other issue will be what you are advocating for to be increased for the public servant. Is it in line with the current market realities? Because you might offer me 10,000, like I've seen 10,000. That is not even enough for a day here in South Sudan. So even if you claim to advocate for me, giving me 10,000, that is not going to help me in the long run. Even if you claim that you are for me, I'll say you are not for me. Give me something that is in line with the existing market realities. Thank you.
Well, I'm smiling because you have very, very interesting point that you just raised. I will follow up with you first before I move to the next question. But before I say that, or before I proceed, I would like to, to acknowledge my brother Raz Chol, who is our IT today. Raz, thank you. We haven't forgot you. We know you're here, and we may also ask you a question anytime. So thank you for the work that you do. Honorable Pal, let me come back to you. I would like to give some background information of why the SPLMIO is doing what it's doing. According to the letter that was actually released 2 days ago by Honorable Nathaniel Oyet, their argument is based on the budget that was put forward for the roads. So that there was a proposal that the budget for the road would be 444 billion. 475,976,612. That was supposed to be the budget for the roads. But there was some argument that was made in the first reading suggesting, or in the third reading, suggesting that that budget was more than enough, for the roads. So why don't we scoop some of that budget from the roads and put it on the salary increment? So I think that is where they're making the argument from. And instead of 444 billion, being put toward the road constructions, why don't we put 306 billion, toward roads, construction? So I think that is the main argument. Now, out of that, they would have some money that they would put toward payment of salary. The question is that is also critical demand. It is an infrastructure that is very important for maintaining of security in the country. It's also important for many other things. But the main concern is that, do we really have the money? This money that we are proposing on papers, is it there? Because the last time I checked, there is crisis in Sudan. So we're not very sure if the oil is still flowing at its current rate. We have other, natural disasters in the country, like the flood that has been going on for the last 3 years. Is it affecting, oil production? We need to hear something from the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Petroleum. They need to give us more information, before we actually jump to conclusions. But what we know, realistically speaking, is that there are, public servants that are not paid for many months. We know this because they are our friends, they are our relatives who, we talk to them. So they're not being paid. So if the money is there, pay these people first. Now, coming to the question of, of the parties wanting to score political points, that's a good thing, but it can backfire. It can backfire. You have to be realistic, for you to earn a point, or to get the votes. So, for example, if you come and say, we want to increase the salary by 1,000%, are you going to win over the SPLMIO that is demanding for 600%? Because you're giving a bigger number. If it is not, in line of what is known about, the general situation in the country. So somebody can promise a bigger number, but is it going to be achieved? Is it going to be implemented? That is one issue. I believe that SPLMIG would have a more convincing, argument given that they have more information. But at the same time, if you look at it from the reform perspective, would it be right for the opposition to be the one demanding for the government to pay the citizens well? It sounds right. We have seen that in Kenya, where Honorable Raila Odinga is pulling his strings on economics, like on some economic issues. Maybe this is where the SPLMIO are getting their opinion. But is it the right opinion? For example, these are people who went to war and they fought for 5-7 years, right? Fighting for the right of these people. Now you're coming back and you continue to fight for the right in the parliament, demanding that you are not paid well. So I want you to be paid well. But that person has been aware for many years that he was not being paid well. What do you think they will think of you? Are you saying that they were not aware? Why didn't they take up arms? Why didn't they protest? Why are they not doing anything to show that they are not happy with what they're receiving? Now, you, the person coming from outside the system, you want these people to be treated right, but maybe they're comfortable with what they're getting. We know, realistically speaking, you cannot pay somebody $10 or even $1 or $2 and expect them to be happy. So the question is, why are the public servants that are being advocated for are now the one actually, that are actually commenting on these issues of, condemning the SPLMIO for demanding more for them? There must be some disconnect there. There must be some disconnect. Say in the worst case scenario, like what happened in Sudan, where the citizen got frustrated, to a point of taking it upon themselves and went and marched and protested, and then they overthrow the government because of the price of bread, that was increased. Now, if this becomes the worst case scenario, where people get frustrated because of the crisis or because of the low salary, and then who will be toughened? Is it the SPLMIO or is it the government? Of course, it is the government that will be toughened. Why is it the SPLMIO that is coming down the citizen, telling them, you sit down, we will fix this one, when it should be the government, right? It should be the government that is leading that, a campaign that, please, we know your problem and we will fix it. Why is it the SPLMIO that is coming out to try to fix the problem? Why is it the SOA? Why is it the opposition?
Well, initially I had challenges hearing you, but I got the question.
All right.
Yeah, as to why it is the IO and SOA members. Earlier I said, every party has got its own principle, what they stand for. And with peace agreement come with a lot of complication. There are areas where you can cooperate. There are areas where have separate role. Now, with our case, it's very complicated because you see people in the same government also battling it out. There are of course a lot of gray areas, and to me, in my own personal opinion, it was not a serious violation that warrant like walking out. Let's not make it look like someone got arrested, and it was something that need to be handled in a collegial manner, because that is what MPs do. That's what they do, like discuss and deliberate on issues. But since this is a peace agreement, parties want to score political point, because yes, this is a government of transitional national unity. They are one, but yet different. So you will find them working in areas of interest, but where interests divert, they will have no problem showing that, okay, this is what we are not standing for, and this is what the opposition have said. And like I noted earlier, this has nothing to do with the increment. It, in my opinion, it has to do with the attitude of the SPLM, and this is what these people are protesting. Because thing to do with increment, you just be open, be transparent, even the Minister of Finance. And you know, in under normal setting, Parliament do not make budget. You know, respective institutions are asked to design their own budget. Then it is presented in the Parliament, and then you are also enlightened and informed. Okay, based on your budget, we are not going to afford this. Now, Parliament has turned out to be the battleground. And I don't know really, I don't remember for one whether the institution presented their budget to the Parliament. Maybe they have done that. But for you to do that, you also need to be informed of the available resources. Like, okay, here is what we have. So your budget should not exceed this. But it is the contrary. You know, people, institutions present budgets that might be, under budgeted or over budgeted, and then in the end, it is a whole new battle together, because now a thing to do with mismanagement, thing to do with transparency. You are budgeting against things that you do not know. So that is my take on it. It was something trivial, that can be discussed in a very collegial manner between the parties. I do not think it warrants working out, because even in the first place, it's not one of the mandate. Increment of salaries of the civil servant is not the mandate of any party. There are bigger issues, things to do with reform. These are things that you should stand for. But now they have narrowed it down to that, that particular component of reform, while they have left things to do with corruption, thing to do mismanagement of resources. These are bigger issues. There are bigger issues, very important issues, than increasing the public civil salaries to a level that is not even in line with the existing market realities. I would be very happy if what they were proposing is maybe, let's say, to me, at the current market rate, for you to sustain someone, an ordinary soldier, you must give them over 100,000. That is now will not be enough, but at least it will push them. But now talking of 50,000, 40,000, that is not enough. So this has to do with wrangling, political wrangling to score point, and that is what it is. And of course, we have to agree that there are things we can never find answers to, because it also goes back to the issues of resources. How much of the resources do we have in the country? Of course, I would want to believe that is a classified information. How much do we get from the oil revenues? No one knows. Non-oil revenues. So where do we even increase? Let us first find out, like, how much do we make, and then we will advocate for the increment of this on based on informed decision.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Pal. I will come back, with a different question, but I will go to Honorable Kosa. Wesley, this is a very interesting question, but let me just tweak that question a little bit, because Pal has spoken in depth about most of it. But let's think about it from a democratic point of view. Okay, in a democratic nation, in a democratic society, things are supposed to be divided on a table, right? If four of us disagree, in the spirit of democracy, you don't have to walk out, like Paul said. Now, if you find that you will be the minority, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to walk out? And how will you come back if you walk out of this table? So the main issue here is also that question of democracy. Opposition are supposed to be an example when it's come to to ideals like democracy. So was it right for the opposition to walk out? Secondly, if it was right to walk out, okay, what are you going to do differently after walking out? Or what do you think need to happen next before you come back to the table?
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Thank you for giving me the chance. I think the opposition allowed themselves to be drawn unnecessarily into SPLM agenda and the SPLM fight, political fight. the opposition way of thinking, since IG is going to gain from the increase of salary, let us increase more so that we are seen in a better way than the government. Somebody want to give you $10 and somebody said, oh, give him $100, then you will impress that person who said give him $100. But for me, that is completely a wrong approach. First of all, as an opposition, SPLM-IO supposed to be tackling the government from the perspective of corruption, from perspective of you haven't paid the salary of these people for over years and years, even the small one that they're getting, you don't pay them. Why are you thinking about increase? And this money for increase, where is it coming from? Identify for us the source. Because normally, when a nation sits down to increase, the nation knows that flow of that money is going to be there. And that subsidy is going to be there. So then it should trickle down to people. After paying the national debt, after putting the country in a better shape, financial, then you said, now we have extra to pay to our people. And this extra is not going to be a one time. It's not going to be like a bonus that one time. No, it's going to be for life. So then, since it's going to be for life, you have to guarantee that source is coming also for life to maintain it. So now, for IO, my expectation is that IO should stand firm that, okay, government, you're thinking about increasing the salary. That actually is a good thing, but this is not the right time. The right time will come for increase. But first, pay our people regularly. Citizens need to be paid regularly. As we know, normally in Sudan, traditionally, we pay people monthly. So monthly, each citizen needs to be paid. And then after that, once that means you have solved the problem, because when you don't pay a citizen, that means there's a problem somewhere. And that problem will be mainly corruption, and that money that's supposed to pay the citizen, some people, individuals are enjoying it. So tackle that problem. Let that money flow to the citizen continuously. And once you tackle that problem, and you look into now how much the country is making, and that comes down to issue of transparency. How much are we making in terms of oil? How much are we making in terms of our non-oil revenues? How is our economic policy coming up? Is it taking us in a good direction? Is it taking the country, because you should have an economic focus. The country should have an economic focus based on what they have calculated, based on the economic policy. You're moving in the right direction, country is making money, businesses are moving, and that there are components that are connected with that. First, your infrastructure has to be good. Second, your peace has to be in the country so that goods will move freely, attract people to come and invest in your country. And that is all around the peace itself. If there's peace, because if there's no unknown gunman, if somebody can pick up his goods even at night to travel from Juba to Ural without being attacked in the middle, then now the country is moving, economy is moving, you see money is on the market, and the country is getting better. Then you said, okay, based on this income, and based on that income, and based on that spending, we have subsidy, and this subsidy is going to be continuously. So then we're going to increase the salary, and the percentage, you don't wake up from sleep and just cut it. No, the percentage is going to be in agreement with what money you have left in your economic coffer. Then you say, based on this, this will pay each citizen, each working citizen, 10%, 1%, 2%, whatever calculation you. It has to be based on tangibility, tangible evidences, economic evidences. Then when you're going to present anything in the parliament, you're going to present based on that economic tangibility, the figures based on economic tangibility to the parliament. Said, okay, our revenue, all the national revenue is this, and we have attended to this, and this has to take care of infrastructure, this has to take care of our national debt, and this has to take care of all. Then after that, this is what is left, and after this, we will be having this figure coming on our leftover coffer all the time. So based on this leftover, we will be able to increase the salary of our citizen because of the deflation of the currency. The country is seeing our money falling freely. So based on this, market is expensive, and we figured out that if we increase this amount, our citizen will be able to live decent. So, but it just just somebody wake up and said, 400%. Somebody wake up said 600%. But based on what? So to me, that's supposed to be the argument of IO. Look, tell us how much we are making. Tell us how much is left. Tell us if that leftover continuously, how much we're going to get regularly. So tell us then that increase is based on what? Then said, okay, you have not paid our citizen for the last 6 months or 7 months every time. Why can't you, first of all, continue to pay our citizen regularly for at least 1 to 3 years? Yeah. So that is a wrong fight that IO got itself in, and they approach it also wrongly. Thank you.
That is a very, very important point. Thank you so much. When two people are competing on who should give bigger thing, whether it is auctioning where somebody want to buy a car and want to pay more, those people are not really disagreeing. They are agreeing. So what they're saying is that let's make it more. And then the other person say, well, maybe, give more. So that is not an opposition. So yes, you have a point. Opposition should be asking the realistic questions. They should be the brain of the operation. They should be the brain for the people. So the question that you just asked are very realistic. Asking of transparency, show us where this money is coming from, is also part of the reform. So thank you. You raised really good points. So I want to say sorry to our viewers. I said before that we will end in 1 hour, and now maybe I begin to understand why a lot of live show go for 8 hours. I haven't been doing this. I don't do live shows, so I'm also learning. We are already into 1 hour of our discussion, and we have very important point that we want to to tackle before we finish. So instead of ending the show after 1 hour, we'll take a break, and then we'll come back. Please, bear with us. We'll come back in 1-2 minutes. So, Comrade Wesley, Comrade Pal, you can take a break and help yourself. Then we'll come back shortly. Thank you.
All right.
So, Raz, you can play some songs in the meantime. Thank you.
celebrate. Kuliyom Kalina celebrate. Sabaja, shemis talakala, mami zonta ni bikore. Salaka, jable fara bigalni, alatani ma bikore. Anyar kuka kalita kumpu milo, ya shabab kalita kunja. Iyaude hati ya jibna lekum, I mean iyaude huri ya jibna lekum. Namsuku matala bubel, namsuku gawi matala bubel. Ashana celebrate, kuliyom kalina celebrate. Ashana celebrate, kuliyom kalina celebrate.
right, all right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So it was good that we took the break. We needed the break. So let's come back. I believe Honorable Kosa is coming back. We'll be here in a minute, hopefully. I would like to say that was a nice song. It was a nice song. We have seen some of the element that we will talk about in the song itself. The celebration that was going on, that was something that captured my attention. There was a bowl of some drink that was being passed around. Maybe it was, a traditional wine. And then there was one guy that held to it for a few minutes, that the other guy got frustrated with him and he started pointing at his, he grabbed it and he was pointing at him. So, that's an example of corruption right there. He's like, what's happening? So one guy took a longer sip than he should, and the rest of the guys are left with nothing. So these are the things that we're talking about. They exist in all walk of life. In every society, we have them. We have people like that, people who are less considerate of other people. So, Honorable Kosa, welcome back.
Thank you.
We would like to to proceed. The next topic for our discussion will be on election. So, election is one of the most trending current events. We don't know yet if the grounds are level, if there will be election. But we have seen one very interesting event, which is also one of the of the current affairs. The return of Dr. Lama Call to Juba. Does it signify anything? Because the pretext is that there's an election coming up. So maybe the politicians will use this as an opportunity to return to Juba. We have no problem with the return. This is what we all want to see. We want everyone to go back to Juba. We want the peace agreement to be implemented. We want the citizen to be happy. So it's not a question of why are they returning. It is a question of, is it realistic that we are, or the politicians are using the call for election as the main attraction that is attracting them in the country? Will it happen? Will there be an election? Will the election be held? Are the ground levels? This is one question that we would like to go briefly on, and I would like to give this opportunity to Honorable Kosa first, because Pal has mentioned a few things on this before, but I would also like to give him an opportunity after he has listened to you. So, Honorable Kosa, what do you think?
Thank you. The issue of an election. Elections are a democratic process. They are the dividends of peace, harmony, and stability. When a country calls for election, a country knows that the citizens are completely aware of election. Citizens, part of their rights is to exercise, to choose their representatives in the government. In our situation in South Sudan, those citizens, majority of them are in IDP camps. Majority of them in refugee camps. The country's priority is supposed to, first of all, have peace and return all the citizens in the country so that they can come and participate in this important democratic event that will determine their future, determine the future of the country. First, have a genuine peace, because there's a reason why somebody will leave his country and live in a harsh situation of refugee camps, or leave his house and stay in as an internal displaced person. There must be a reason. Fix that reason or reasons to allow those people to return to the country. Once everybody returned to the country, from refugee camps and from internal displaced areas to their own localities, then you follow now with the second step. The second step will be demarcating the electoral constituencies, which will be the formation of independent electoral commissioner, leave alone fixing the judiciary to allow the judiciary to be very independent, because elections are competitions, and the competitions never end up with dispute. Even those who are honorable defeated, they will come up with something, oh, it has been reached. Sometimes with no tangible evidence. And who is going to solve that dispute? Because that is the democratic process. Any voice needs to be heard. And you have a judiciary that such voices can go to, complaints, and they will come there, since they're not backing up either side, they will say, no, we have done our diligent work. They said this is non-starter. But we are talking about election. We have our citizens in the refugee camps. We have our citizens in the internal displaced areas. We don't have the infrastructure in place to allow the electoral bodies to move freely. We don't have an open space, political space, because there's supposed to be a political space to allow other parties to participate effectively, to talk, to discuss, to campaign. We don't have that in place. We don't have the rights of citizens to associate and to move freely. Now, every time you move on your own, you're attacked somewhere, somebody attacks you, and you're not freely to move. How do we campaign? So the country is not, even take alone the president. Take the president now. He said he's the flag bearer of SPLM, but who is his running mate? How do you go a flag bearer without a running mate? So, looking into the characteristic of what the government is doing, is more or less, the right term will be not election, but selections. We go for selection, we select ourselves, and I select myself, the president, and I select who are going to be with me in the next government. That is selection, because it is more or less replacing extension with a new baptism of election. That's a new baptism, but it's rather the same extension of the same government that does not deliver services to its citizens, that does not bring the genuine peace in the country so that the country can prosper. Because if there is a genuine peace and countries prosper in a good path and is moving forward, the call for election will be the citizen calling it. Citizen can press for election. A governor doesn't do well, the citizen of that state can press for election, that we need a new election, we need a new governor. Or if the leadership in Juba is not doing well, if the term of presidency is 10 years, within that short time, the citizen can rise up and say, no, this president is not doing well, this government is not doing well, we are pressing for election, we are calling for election. So elections are dividends of peace. And as I'm concerned, our country is not experiencing peace yet. Peace is missing. That is why Every member, the ministers in Juba moved in convoy, even the president moving, the roads have to be closed, and president will have to go with 100 bodyguards, 300 bodyguards around, because there's no peace. He himself, as a president, as a leader, is living in fear. So this is completely a sham election that the result will already been predicted and planned and manipulated. So then when people assuming to go to the polls, it's just a mere display, but the reality behind is people has already been selected to lead the government. And that, and understand somebody in Mayom, understand somebody in Torit, understand somebody deep in the village in Upper Nile. Is that person will have the rights to vote, will have the voice heard? Who is going to take even the voting box there for them to vote in the village? Because the infrastructure is not there. So with this, the best thing could have been, let us all as citizens of South Sudan put effort to bring genuine, sustainable peace. And once the peace is here, let us sit together, shape the country, put together a viable institutions first. We begin with delivering services to our citizens, make all the citizens happy, drive the country in the path of prosperity. Once the country is well, then let's talk about election now. Citizen create awareness, and citizen will be aware. Then now election will come. I have tons to say, but because of the time, I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kosa. So those are very good points. You actually broke down a very, like somehow complicated point that many people don't really get into details, and that was the reason I wanted to give you more time to dive into it. The question of election is a process. It's not an event. People need to understand that there are so many events that need to happen in between before you actually head out to vote. So you talk about some of this process, and I will tweak this question again and pass it on to Pal. Honorable Pal, you are in the country. You've been to maybe different part of the country recently. Now, talking of the event that need to happen, one important event is, the process of establishing an incredible electoral commission, EC. In Kenya, we have the IEBC. In other countries, we have, at least a body that is known by the people. And that body cannot just be set up in the last minute. It cannot be set up today and then people go for election tomorrow, for example. They need tools. They need, a lot of preparation for them to be ready. Do we have such a system in place? Do we have an electoral commission that will be able to do elections next year? Are the poll stations ready? For example, if I want to go and vote in Rayan or in Kajokeji or maybe somewhere in the village, will I be able to vote? Do we even have centers where people can go and vote? Are these centers going to be built? What is going to happen? Do we have any, do we have census? We have heard of a census in the recent month. I believe it was in the last 3 months that came out of nowhere. And this census put the population of Baragazal bigger than the population of current South Sudan. And that already tells you what is at the back of the mind of the politicians. Do we have registrations? Are the citizens, are the voters registered? Please have the mic and feed us what you know.
Thank you so much, Brother Deng. Comrade Wesley, for that elaborate uh, discussion. There is something that I want us to take into consideration. This country that you have seen that are very stable, they are not stable by chance. There are basic principles and best practices of governance that you have to get right for that country to be stable. And for as long as you don't want to align with those best practices, you will always get it wrong. And in South Sudan, the people that are leading us are not yet ready for those best practices. Coming to your question, you have correctly pointed it out that election is not an event that happen in isolation. There are things that have to be in place for election to take place. Now, in our context, Comrade Wesley talked about it. We have a lot of, a huge chunk of our population outside the country. Although that should not be a big deal, we have seen countries where, maybe 12 million registered and then only 5 million votes. That should not be an issue that we still have a lot of people outside, because even coming back should be a decision that they should take voluntarily. But the context we should be focused on is the context in the country inside. And for me, I have been saying this in the fora where I have the chance to speak. The hype about election in South Sudan is to talk about election to get an extension, because if you look at the general setting, even with the very peace agreement that is being implemented, there are things that are supposed to happen that have not even yet happened. Talk of the political party act, even the electoral the electoral act. Talk of things to do with voter registration, the civic education. The infrastructure even is not even there. So to me, I don't believe it one bit that we are going for election. But then, the government is talking about election, because now, if that is challenged, then the next thing will be, okay, let's extend, which also favor them. In terms of fairness and free and fairness of the election, even if the event that I was alluding to earlier, even if they were to be in place, I would really be surprised in South Sudan. You don't see a lot of country in Africa where the incumbent is losing, and all the pointers right now indicate to one outcome. Take, for example, people like Chief Justice. When the president goes around political rallies, if he attends, political rallies, this is the person that should, is the one that, to deal with people who are having issues, with conflict, is the custodian of the law. Now, what do you expect if the Chief Justice, who should be very independent, impartial, and non-partisan, going around doing political rallies? The chair of the Electoral Commission was also seen around the SPLM rallies with the president. So it will take a lot of naivety to think that even if practices, in line with the election were to be put in place, to think that one stand a chance to beat him. I always say it by Hugo Crook, they are prepared to, to, like he just said, the result are predetermined. So it's just a formality that let's go for election, so that we will also talk about it, that we are given a mandate, we were elected. It is only that element that is missing, because now when they go around, they will be told, there has never been election in this country. So they want to use that as a tool to say that we were given a new mandate. But it's hard to see how it's going to be fair when, the basic independent institutions are now partisan with the ruling party. So obviously, I will not subscribe, and it remains to be seen. I don't think election will take place because unless the region, region that are that are affiliated with the government, but the region that is independent, people who are pro human right, pro good governance, you cannot come up with a sham event and think that people will appreciate it. There are people outside there, they will look at the process and they will, like, even you have seen Troika, they are coming out clean. Like, time is running out even for the roadmap. Roadmap was drawn based on the outstanding activities that were not done, but it is already ending without even a single thing being touched. Very few are being touched, but they are not very important. So Troika came out clean and say, okay, here there is a serious issue of political will. So when the government give in to those pressure, the only thing they will say, let us extend. And even if you keep extending, there are chapters that are very hard to be implemented, to be honest. Thing to do with reconciliation, healing, and all that stuff, establishing of hybrid court. Who will establish those? Because the war we had was not a joke, and there are people who should shoulder responsibility. So now, when that hybrid court is set up, they will not go for foreigners; they will come for us. And if we know they will come for us, we will not allow that to be established. So it's pretty complicated. I don't think we'll go for election because there are a lot of things that are not put in place. Voter registration, even adoption of key legislation that should give way to election. And I don't think it will happen. If it does, then it will be in a very weird way, and it will be challenged. Thank you.
Those are very good point, Comrade Pal. You mentioned of many things that need to be done, and there are people who would come forward and disagree with you that we have some of these things in place. For example, when you talk of security, if you are from the government camp, say from the SPLMIG, who knows? You may argue that there is a security in place, but these are things that need to be to be implemented. So these are things that need to be implemented. So we will give a benefit of doubt to the lack of a government representative today, but it does not discount the point that you mentioned. We don't have a credible judicial system, and both of you have talked about that. It's very important. We don't have the voters registration. I also shared a comment right now. I think if it will be shown by Comrade Rash, that would be great. IT person, there was a comment that I shared. If you can show that, that would be nice. It's something that talked about. It's a post that was posted by Dr. Jokma Dudjok on April 7th on the current census. The census came out with numbers that were very interesting. That but there was there were a few serious issues on the numbers. Let me pull it out again. Let me pull it up. The main issue were the numbers that were allocated to West, to Baragazal region. I incorrectly say that the population of Baragazal was bigger than the population of South Sudan, but I meant it is bigger than the population of Upper Nile, or of the two other regions, Upper Nile and and the Equatorian combined. For example, the population of Warabi State, it was put at 1,265,472. The population of Lake State, sorry, that is the population of Lake State. The population of Warab was was put as as twice as much as what I just said. It's 2,639,484. The population of Northern Baragazal was put at 1,924,342. So if these people were correct, or if they were honest, they would have put all of them at population of 2 million each. So 1.9 is very close to to 2 million. Then the other population is 2.6. Then the other one is 2.2. So Lake State, Warab, and northern, and northern Bargazal. If if you were to combine the three of them, that would be a population of almost 5 million for one region. 5 million. So say that is nearly half of the population of the country, because the current population should be around 11 million or 12 million. So if you look at the population of Jonglei State, for example, it was put at 791,000, less than a million. The population of Upper Nile State was put at 790,000, also less than a million. So if you combine the two, they would have like a population of 1.5 million, and then which is less than the population of Warab. If you add the population of Western Equatoria, which was put at 663,000, it's the three would barely make 2 million. So those are three states that is still less than Warab only. If you are to add the population of Eastern Equatoria, which was put at 981, so the three states would come to 2.5 maybe. So if what to do the math, so the only state that was put at a higher number is Central Equatoria, which is put at 1.3 million, and we know the logic there. Obviously, it could be because the president will win, because that is his current seat. So the population of the administrative areas were put at roughly 250. So the population of of the GPAA, which is Greater Pibora Administrative Area, was put at 240,000. Population of Ruweng was put at 234,000. Population of Abia was put at 133,000. Even looking at the administrative areas, which should be only one county or two counties, they are put at relatively higher numbers. If you are to combine the three, they would have a population of about 600,000, which is very close to the population of Jonglei State, that is comprised of 11 counties. So, we can tell right away that the logic here was completely skewed, and for a reason. So that is where we are with the election. So, and that takes us to the next question. We will not exhaust this topic today. We will come back to it. So this question will go to Honorable Kosa, and it's a question of what would the opposition do? What would the opposition do? Now, we have already known that the logic is not really favoring them ahead of time. So if they go to election, the grounds are not ready. They have not registered their parties. So much need to be done. So say worst case scenario or the best case scenario, they go for an election. What are the chances of winning the election? They already know they will not win the election. But if you don't go for election, then you will have to extend the term of the president, which is either way Salva Kiir will lead. So what would you think, or what would you do if you are in this position? What would be the best way forward? What would be the best optimal strategy for the opposition to take? Because either way, Salva Kiir will be in power, which is the worst thing that they want to see, or the nightmare. How do we solve this problem? Wesley?
Thank you. There are two groups of oppositions. There are oppositions inside South Sudan, in the country. Most of the times, and this is what it bugs my mind, most of the times the opposition inside the country feels very disconnected with reality, and they feel helpless and hopeless, which is wrong. Opposition inside the country supposed to raise their voices, particularly IO. IO is supposed to raise up their voice. This is not the time of election. We as an opposition reject any election issues, and we are not going to be part of this election based on this and that and that, based on the point that I mentioned. First of all, even the peace agreement that they have signed with the government is not being implemented. Opposition should say, okay, even the peace agreement we signed, is not implemented. We have our number of people still in the refugee camps. We have people in internal displaced. We did not carry on country's population census. All this need to be done before the election, because election is a process, not an event. Opposition is supposed to stand strong. We outside here, let's say in NCF, you have seen our statement. We wrote a very clear statement about elections, and we put a reason why we're not supporting the elections. And we are continuing to promote that because we know our country is not ready for election. Should every opposition stand strong, IG will not run alone. It will be shameful. They will buy some people here and there to present themselves as opposition, but the citizen will know, and the international community will also know those people are just being mad as an opposition. As just comrade mentioned, the electoral commissioner is moving with the government, with the Kerala campaign, things like that. So we will also know that so is being picked to represent opposition, but it's not even a viable opposition party. So all this need to be done. Once opposition stand, especially IO internal, stand back and said, we are not going to be part of this nonsense. We are not participating because of these reasons. I think citizens will hear. International community will hear. Region will also hear. Because now UN has already said out, Troika has come forward saying that this is not the time for election. This election the country is not ready for election. So all these voices, Kir, it will make Kir to be Kir, because Kir is known for extension. Kir will come and extend. And then the country will be in same status quo, because Kir enjoys the status quo. I'm telling you, Brother Elijah, even today you go, if it's a free election, you stand against the Kir, people will vote for you. Because everything that people want, Kir does not give. The country wants, Kir does not give. Kir's government does not. You know, people need social services. People need security, peace. Kir doesn't have. So if you go today, the free election, you go free and fair, you go and debate, you will defeat Kir in the platform, debating platform, because Kir does not have anything to give to show as what he has done successful all this time. So to me, the thing for opposition is not to see themselves helpless, but they're supposed to stand strong and say, no, we are not going to be part of this nonsense based on this and that, and stay out of this election. And we in National Consensus Forum, we are talking to the world about this, and we are now we gave our statement, and we are now in the middle. We are working on our National Consensus statement, which we will deliver a national statement over next weekend that will entail what we expected of our country. So that is what we are doing, and I think it's taking shape, and the international community is listening, and the global community is listening to what we are saying, because it's simply logics that you can't just go for election for the sake of election. You go for election because you have everything required for election to happen. We don't have. The country doesn't have. So simple logics. So for me, to conclude, the opposition has to stand up and say no. And this is why you are in opposition, to point ill of the government. They're supposed to point ill of the government of this election. They're supposed not to keep quiet. They're supposed to stand up and say, no, because of this, we are not going to be part of this. And if SAWA want to go ahead, let the SAWA go. But are you? Because to be honest with all of you, IO is the only viable opposition that is recognized, leave alone those SAWA. SAWA are the vehicles of care, extended vehicle of care. Bakasoro within the SAWA declared himself to be an SPLM. So all this need to be pointed clearly out. And who will do that? IO is supposed to stand up. IO is supposed to tell, yes, we are in the government of national unity, but we don't agree and believe in the nonsense. Here we stand with the people of South Sudan. We stand with the right thing. This is not the right time for election based on this and this and that. So this is my simple answer of what opposition should do. And we who are outside will also continue to ring the bell. We should not keep quiet. We should talk about it. It's our country. We all have rights to say something about it. We have rights to participate in it. We should continue to talk, engage the world on what we think is the right thing. Thank you.
Those are very important point, and they are being addressed to one of our colleagues here, Pal. Honorable Pal was in that position of wanting to speak out, and he will tell us exactly what happened. He was in the position of trying to point things out. He was given a very difficult task. He was given the task to be anti-corruption commission in Jonglei State, without his bodyguards, without a military, without a very strong support from the government. It was a job that he could not do for more than, I don't know, I think it was 3 months or maybe less than a year. So, Paul, maybe you would have an answer to Honorable Kosa. We need solutions. We just don't want to point things out. And this may drive us to the next question that I want us to talk about. Now we are seeing that thing that need to be done. We don't need election. Okay, as democratic minds, people who have lived in countries with a lot of peace and democracy, we have benefited from good elections. So we also want elections. It's not a question of we don't want elections. It's a question of when should we do the elections? What need to happen? Now we know that there are many processes or many like we need to do some events. There are events that need to happen before the main event, which is the election. We think that is what needs to be done. But what is taking so long? Why are this not being done? So the question is, let's go to the basics. Let's go to the root cause. What should be the solution? And this question go to Pal. What do we need to do right now to make these things happen? People have talked of political will, which seem to be the main vehicle here that is needed to carry all these things. We have known that. Pal, maybe you will need to tell us a bit more than just a political will. What needs to happen? Because say if we were to do election in 2024, and somebody is committing to make these events happen, tell you within 3 months we will do voters registration, within the next 3 weeks I will form an electoral commission, within next 4 months I will reform the judiciary. So if we have such a person, I think some of us would be convinced that maybe we have time if these elections were to happen in December. So what are your recommendations? What would you tell the main principals to do? What would you tell Salva Kiir to do to make these things happen, for the process to be realistic?
Thank you so much. What needs to be done? I want to say it has to be a constant engagement. And maybe to point out to Comrade Wesley, I don't want to speak for IO, but it is obvious that if things remain the way they are right now, no one will push IO to go to election. I will be boycotted. Right now, IO is part of the government, the transitional government of national unity, and there are things that it's blinded, but there are things that it can clearly point out. Issues to do with reforms, it cannot all happen at once. But things to do with the election, they will not go to election until there are drastic reform. And if IG continue to push, which I believe will not, because the hype is about election to get that extension. You also said that. So if there is that continued push for election, Iowa will not go for election. So that is one thing about what should be done. There has to be constant engagement about the thing that we have to speak about how things should be done. We also have to engage with the international community. You know, our country is a result of international cooperation. We cannot take away our contribution, but we also cannot take away the contribution of the rest of the world. So we have our friend, people that cannot allow us to, to drain toward that path of destruction. These are people we mentioned Troika, people who are the true friend of this country. We also should engage with those. And then the like-minded opposition. Now, the only thing we should be careful about is, advocating for the violent. Violent has done a lot of destruction. It should be the last resort. But pointing out how things should be done, it's the duty of everybody. Like, we educate also the public on this election. Are they ready for this? And it's not a rocket science to understand that. From the public opinion, they are saying they are not ready for election because there is nothing that has been literally done to go for that election. So precisely what should be done, we have to keep pointing to things like this is how it, even if it means like protesting about that. The other one is constant engagement with the international community. We educate our public about how things should be done. Also, the opposition should consolidate, collective power work best. So, and like he pointed, this is our country, that we should point out to things that are not going right. So that is what I think should be done, and we should not allow IG to do as it wish. We should challenge that. And as far as I know, if there is continued push for election, Iowa will not go for that election. Although that is also another problem altogether, because if you don't go for election, that means you are also going for an extension, which literally puts you also under President Kiir for maybe a couple of years again. So, but we should keep engaging.
Yeah, either way, we have to keep moving. So whether we walk or we or we crawl, we must move. So I think that's a good slogan from Dr. Martin Luther King. So saying that we need to move forward, let me give the mic, or let me return the mic to Honorable Kosa again. So what do you recommend? As part of NCF, as part of South Sudan National Movement for Change, what do you have on the table as a solution to some of these things? If you are given the mandate today to prepare the country for election, or to establish some of this program that need to be done, what would be the first thing? What do you have for us today? What would you recommend?
Thank you. With all what is going on, is just one answer, is that there is no peace in our country. So I think we all need to sit down as South Sudanese, bring genuine, sustainable peace. That is number one. That is beyond everything. So once there's a peace, we as South Sudanese will sit together. How do we want this country to be run? How do we want this country? The issue of fighting corruptions is establishing vibrant institutions, having a clear path for the country to run, and having a prediction of what do we want this country to be in future. Then once that is done, there's a genuine peace, and this should never happen and unless it is under an inclusive process that everybody should be included in that discussions. Nobody should be left out. Nobody, because we think being a South Sudanese is a human right. It's our right of each South Sudanese to participate in what discussions consider about the nation. Each South Sudanese need to be part of it. Once we have accepted that to happen, then all what we are discussing today will be a history. Once we discuss and once there's a genuine peace, then we build a very strong institution, vibrant institutions. Then after that, the issue of elections will come. Because after that, you cannot build a nation without knowing the population. You need to know the demography of your population, so that you can plan your country. You will know how many people live in this state to get the services, the capacity, the amount of money needed in that, the amount of knowledge needed in that, amount of manpower needed to build this state. You go each state by state. And then that is where you form the demography of a country. That is more or less like CV of a country. You have education, educated people are like this, and then this country, so many people are dying like this, and people are being born like this, and that and that. Then you form that. Once you form that, then it comes down to the social. You then begin to see, okay, in Warap we have this population, and this is the amount of things needed to be done in Warap, and this is the budget, and this is the amount of school need to be built, amount of hospitals need to be built, amount of health centers, amount of roads need to be constructed, and that is how you then start to shape the country in a right path. Once that is done, the issues of election will never be an issue that need to be debated. It will come automatically. Now we know our population, we have our political constituencies, we know it is clear, we know our citizens, we know what kind of citizens we have, we know all this, and the chance, and remember, we never experienced democratic election. People need to be educated on democratic elections. We only see democratic elections in TVs and news, but we never practice it ourselves. People need to be educated on that, from top people in the cities to the village to the chiefs, to be educated about the election. And then after that, you move. So us as an opposition, we think it is a time to bring a genuine, sustainable peace, that I can pick up myself today from Warap. I will drive to Juba. I don't need to look at my clock. It is night. No time to drive. I have my goods. I will get up and go. Nobody will attack me. Nobody. In Juba, I can move freely. There's no unknown gunman that will follow me until my house and attack me. All this is because of absence of a genuine peace. Even with that, if you want the country, we want the country to run, once we bring that genuine peace, all these issues can be addressed. The issue of security, safety of people, because you can't lead the people and they're not safe. Just like father in the house. If you are a father in the house, you want to make sure that the family is in peace. You want to make sure that all the doors are locked when you're sleeping. You want to make sure that there's a house for you to live in, and there's food in the house, and all the household is in peace. If not, the father will do everything to make that happen. And that is image of a nation. Image of a nation. So our country, first of all, brothers, we need peace. That's number one. Very genuine peace. And then after that, we go to tackle issues one by one. Issues of corruption, issues of tribalism, You know, because if you touch someone today, oh, they are doing me because I am a Moro. Oh, they're doing this because I'm a Zande. They're doing this because I'm even a thief can say, oh, they're calling me a thief because I'm a Tenka. So it makes everybody agitated and everybody confined in your own skin. And that is not how you build a nation. Nation cannot be built on a divisions.
All right.
The social fabric of our country is being destroyed. Now, why this nonsense of greater? There's no greater South Sudan, only greater Equatoria, greater Barghazal, greater nonsense. And then there's no greater South Sudan. So everybody identify themselves as greater, their area greater, but not South Sudan. I never heard somebody saying greater South Sudan. Yep. So that is clearly a wrong term. We need to destroy that term once and for all, and we need to destroy the tribalism to create a harmony. And then all this need to be created will be created only if there's a peace. Genuine peace.
Thank you, Honorable Kosa. To be honest, what you have just said is a common sense. When I think about these things, it is not only you and me and Honorable Pal that agree on these things. All of us, every South Sudanese, including President Kiir and and Dr. Riek Machar, Dr. Lamakol, we all agree on these basics, fundamentals. We need peace. That is something that you cannot argue against. Nobody will tell you I don't want peace. Okay, we only see a very interesting Nigerian comedy that is known for saying that I don't want peace. I want problem always. But in real terms, no, like even that comedian does not mean that he does not really want peace. We all want peace. So the point that you just mentioned, I thought it was a common sense. But when you see our people is speaking, this is where you figure out that there must be something really wrong. Because we all know at the back of our mind that the most important fundamental that is needed is peace to fix all these things. But you will not hear the big politicians talking about it. For example, the minister of the new minister of peace that was appointed a few days ago, very well articulated guy, very eloquent. He spoke really well. I sat there for a few minutes and I watched him speak because I wanted to hear something calling for peace. You mentioned all the beautiful ideas that you could ever think about. It's a beautiful political campaign message. He's thinking about people in rank. He's thinking about people in Kajokeji. Like he's a very nationalist. He's talking about tribalism. He's talking about good program that you want to implement. But he's missing the most important catalyst, peace. At the end of the day, he just concluded. And I was expecting him to call on President Kiir and Dr. Machar and tell them, for me to implement all this good thing that you have just heard from me, I need one thing, peace. Without peace, I will not be able to do any of this. And that is the reality. You cannot improve the economy without making sure that there is peace so that the farmers in the village can farm, so that there can be enough local food production. So these are basics. I wanted to ask this question from the Minister of Peace, but he got disconnected by his internet and his phone also died. So he had to leave us, and I feel bad for him. But let's wrap it up.
Elijah, you mentioned something. Let me just mention one thing.
Okay.
In every country, we live in a global world. You cannot build the economy alone. You need foreign investors. You need people who will find your country good and will bring money in and invest in. So then, but in South Sudan, if a foreigner comes to, and as soon as you come in to discuss, in that discussion, people with guns, security with open guns, AK-47 behind you, and then you're signing business deal. How do you feel secure? Because people invest only in a place where there's peace. And even here in the countries where we live now, if you go to a place, a police is supposed to maintain peace. But if you go to a place, there's 100 of police around, you will feel uncomfortable because there's a high chance of a crime to happen. That's why there's a lot of police. You will feel like that and you leave. The same thing, you go to South Sudan and then you see security open with guns and protecting and then defending, protecting you. If security is protecting me because I am here to sign business deals with the government, that means there's no peace here. There's a fear of us, anything can happen anytime. And that is something that is also connected with peace. And that is where everything the country will say about, oh yeah, president will fire minister of finance after minister of finance, will not change. It's not about the minister. It's about the overall economic policies of the country. And also, it's overall the way the president is leading the country. If you, the president, is very corrupt, how do you expect the people that you are leading to be good? You know, so they are like the president, the oil and whatever, all is under president control. And the president is giving contracts to his own cousins, his own fellow national contracts, and it is all known. It's no secret. So how do you come out from economic crisis if you are if you practice corruption? You cannot. You cannot. It's not about the budget. It's not about the minister being wrong. No, ministers of any government in the world never had their own thing. They are following the policies of the country. You have your economic policies. The minister comes to execute them. The economic policies will be beautiful, but if there's a corruption, that will remain to be just only in papers. Nobody will see the result of it. And that's exactly what is happening in South Sudan. How many ministers of finance president fires all the time?
11.
Tons of times. And the president wants to change the economy of the country by decree. You don't do that. Those are practical things that need to be done. And one of it is to fix the corruption, to keep an eye on every penny that is coming in South Sudan, so that these pennies can ship down to citizens, can deliver services to people. Then, but if you yourself are president, overwhelmed with the corruption, and when he fired anybody of corruption, you will never hear that the president put that person in jail. No. Even billions have gone, and the president will fire the person and let him loose. And then after we forget about him, one day president will reappoint him again to eat more. So what is that president is expecting to change? You continue to do one thing at all times and expect a different result. That is the definition of what? Insane. So that is how our country is. We need to come forward and point exactly what is wrong and talk about it at all times. Not let the president lose, not the president go alone. Let president talk about his election alone, but here we are talking about realities of our country. We are talking about corruption. We are talking about the country's not been running well. We are talking about we need peace. All this, let opposition keep on ringing the bell, and let president from the other hand with his group keep on talking about his election. And the people
Thank you, Comrade Kosa. You mentioned so many important points. In summary, there are two things that you mentioned in the last two comments that you made. One was, having a godfather figure in the house, and then the other one is peace. I think those are the two main things that we need. We need good leadership in the country, competent leader in the country, the main thing. Secondly, we need peace. I will wrap it up by giving the last question to Honorable Pal. He has been quiet for some time and he's on mute. Pal, in the last extension of the peace agreement, we had a very beautiful speech from Dr. Machar. In that speech, there are two things that I can remember clearly. He was telling the young generation of the youth and the country that we, your fathers or your elders, have created this problem for you. We don't want to leave it to you. We are here to fix it before we go. Then, while extending the peace agreement for another 24 months or for 2 years, he mentioned that only 21% or less than 21% has been implemented in 3 years. What would be your best guess? Just give it a number. What would be your best guess on how much has been implemented, and how much do you think will be implemented in the remaining few months? I believe this should be less than 24 months right now, almost 1 year and maybe some months left. How much do you think will be implemented? Is the ROCs or the revitalized peace agreement being implemented? Is there any progress made recently after the extension?
Well, I don't think I'll be very accurate with the number, but it will not go past beyond the 30%. And this is not accidental that RCs has stalled. And if I were to take you back to my earlier comment, there is that general attitude against the current peace agreement. And for those of you that might have come across it, even the president was on record saying that this agreement was designed in a way that even if you give it to the people that design it, they will not be able to implement it. Now, mind you, the general, stagnation of the peace agreement is not that there is an effort in implementing it, that, with the hope someday this will be implemented. Even if you give us the next 10 years, RRCs will never be completed because of some of the chapters. So let alone, having a percentage, the whole agreement might not be able to live to see the day of the light, because there is that general tendency of selective implementation. You pick from chapter 1, and actually chapter 1 is the most that has been implemented because it's easy. Like, appoint the vice president, the minister, and all this, their function and all that. That's all good. Then pre-transitional period activity, those are okay. Now coming to secure arrangement. Secure arrangement, there was a clip, video that was circulating. I saw it yesterday, of Honorable Makwe. What he said was very interesting. Someone asked him, now what happened after election? If we go for election, I think that will mean the end of the peace agreement. He said, no, that is not the case. Even CPA was never completed. And the journalist pushed him, okay, like, what will we do with peace agreement after election? He said the elected government will deal with things to do with the reorganization of forces, okay, redeployment and all this stuff. Things that are clearly stipulated to be done before election. Now he's pushing them over to the next government. So, Brother Deng, I'm afraid to say that these RCs, this peace agreement, even if you give the parties to the next 10 years, they will never be able to implement it, because it's a beautiful document. And you've also heard some key government officials, including governors, that when they signed this peace agreement, it was under duress. Like, we went to Khartoum, you are just locked in the room, with some security personnel telling you sign this, you don't know what you are signing. So I is locked up in the room, in the next room, and then I go in the other room. Then we all met in the hall, like, this is what you have signed. Now, how do you even implement that? So there is a general tendency to sabotage the peace agreement. It will never be implemented. But those issues that are not critical, things that do not concern reform, like development of institution of governance, like these critical institutions, the anti-corruption, the financial management, and all this, those one will never be touched, because those are the basic problem, that could have been dealt with. So it will always be selected, take from here and then leave the other one. Talk of hybrid court, truth and healing and reconciliation, commission. This thing will never be implemented. This is my take. In terms of what percentage has been implemented, I think it does not go beyond 30%. And in terms of what will be implemented, I'm sorry to be very pessimistic, but it's hard to see how if you cannot implement 2 chapters in 4 years, what is it that you will implement? Even if you are giving the remaining time, that has nothing to do with the agreement. It has to do with the attitude, the political will. Yeah, the only thing that is abroad is reduce this large political violence. Like, people are not fighting anymore. But in terms of what it has achieved nothing. It has achieved nothing. Our people are continuing to suffer. Disasters everywhere. Things are getting complicated by day. The only thing that is has brought is that the reduction of political violence. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We are about to wrap up. We are about to finish. I just want to give Honorable Kosa the last summary. Honorable Pal, you talk of so many beautiful things, and sometime when we talk about this, these things from a distance, like myself and and Comrade Kosa, we think maybe there are something we are missing. So we are happy to hear them from you, because you are right in Juba. And with sometimes it's a question of, do people really talk about these things? Right in Juba, do people really express this frustration? Because we feel it, and sometimes we feel it more than the people in the country, to be honest. But there is that misconception that maybe we are not getting accurate information, or we're not informed. But that is not true. We actually know more than what's happening in Juba than some people in Juba, and that is how we succeeded with Nyamelepedia, because people were actually opening Nyamelepedia, to read about Juba within Juba, and most of us were writing outside Juba, in East Africa and here in Canada. But that is how open we are as a country. There is no privacy, there is no confidentiality. People know everything about what's happening in J1, leave alone what is happening around Juba town. So I would like to give this opportunity to Kosa to Honorable Kosa to add something on that, and then we will close it for today.
Yes, indeed. What Honorable Peter has put, I think it's in place. What are the course of actions that I'm going to add this course of actions that we need to do as South Sudanese, particularly those who gave their lives to discuss the issues of the country. We, in the national consensus forums, we believe in inclusivity. We believe in democracy. We believe in dialogue. That let us come. That is why we come up with the roundtable conference, to create that environment for an inclusive process to resolve our problem. National Consensus Forum believe that the roundtable conference will give an open and fair platform for everyone to come and discuss in a very free manner. No intimidation, nothing. Just you come with your ideas and let's come and discuss the issues of our country. Once that is done, the solution of our issues of our country is not outside us, South Sudan, is within us. We are the one. It's our crisis. We are the one to also solve our crisis. So we think once we identify the root causes of our problems, we ourselves will sit down also, identify solutions to those root causes. And then attend to those root causes, address them. Once we address those root causes and the country is running well, then we said, citizen, now what do you want? Citizens said the country is running well, now we need an election. Then let us go for an election. Let us go for an election, and an election that will give each and every right to each person to participate. If you want to run, you run. And because the environment has been created already for you to freely talk, you're going to talk in a very free manner. You're going to associate with the people you want to associate with. You want to move freely. Security will be provided. Security is already there. Country is running in peace. And now the transparent democratic election will then happen. That we in NCF believe in that. Election is a process, and those processes, all of us South Sudanese has to follow those processes keenly. Once there is a peace, return of refugees in the country is not something that you use force. It's a voluntary. No one wants to leave his country, his home, and go live somewhere in the camp. Once you have peace, these people will pick up. Most of us were kids when Addis Ababa Agreement was signed. People were jubilantly, happily to return to their places. No one wants to live outside by force. The time you want to live outside is the only one when you pick up yourself and you want to go and do something outside, then that is different. But if your situation forces you, you want to come back home. So once there's a genuine peace, the return of refugees and will be easily done. The return of IDPs are easily done because the reasons that made them to leave is no more existing. It's no more existing. They will return to their places, rebuild their lives. Once that is done, then we will follow the population census. We don't want to go with Kir having Bahar Ghazal, his own place, 40 million, more than the rest of the people. No, we want a genuine population census. That data can be used, the statistic data can be used for so many things, which Kir does not even think about. Because that data allows the country to plan the infrastructure, plan the social services, plan the future. That simple data that we look at it makes the country to plan its next move, whether it's economic moves or infrastructure, whatever it is, easier to do because you have the data at your hand, not an imaginable data. Once that is done, then we said, okay, now we have to have an independent electoral commission formed, and then independent judiciary. Electoral commission will work together, and since they have the data of the population in the hand, they will now demarcate the electoral constituencies. By doing so, leaving all the laws for the judiciary office to come up with, the laws of election, the laws of this, the laws of that, the laws of freedoms, freedom of association, movement, speech. That is key things in election. When you are free to move, you're free to speak, you're free to gather, then the country is ready for election. So then we in NCF have given ourselves time, and we are working with that, and we are on that, and we are doing that. We try to engage the government to understand where we are coming from. But what is in the mind of President, and I have to say this, President Kiir is one. Anything that you're doing in the world, as long as you don't touch his leadership, he's happy with it. Anything. But as soon as you touch President Kiir's leadership, you are the first enemy for life. So I wonder whether the president is going to live there for life, forever, for 100,000 years. Because if you know that you are human, you're going to die one day. You want to leave a legacy. You prepare a legacy. You prepare a ground for your name so that when you leave, people will say, he has achieved that, he has done that, he has done that. But president is all about the presidency. That is why he enjoys the status quo. And that is status quo. That is why a lot of corrupt citizens come around president, because they are enjoying that. Because today, if you can take $3 million and president will never touch you, that is your best friend. If you can take $5 million, the president will never touch you. Or what maximum will do will dismiss you, but will not touch the money that you have stolen. President will be your best man. So we in National Consensus Forum, we want free thinkers to be part of this vehicle. People who think independently, groups that think independently, groups that has a right path of thinking, that our country needs a new approach, a new clear path. And that is our mission, and we wanted and we need people to come so that we hold hands together and push for the better
Yes,
South.
you're right about that. If you cannot find, you are in the right place.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Kosa. And that is bringing us to our
And
conclusion. Comrade Jal Bielbapin and Comrade Woodnur, you guys are coming in at the last minute. We are done for our discussion for today. Since you are already here, I will allow you guys to greet us, but that would be only greeting, please. We will have another session whereby we will invite you to come and and address important topic. So Jal Bielbapin, I can see you are at work as well, so maybe you have a minute to say something. Jal, are you there? You're on mute. Hello, Jal. Can you hear us? All right. Now I think the mute is off. Would you like to greet us? Would you like to say something? Yeah,
are you
Jal?
talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you. Yes, Jal. If you'd like to say something briefly, that would be great. We're about to close.
Deng Elijah, the sound is not clear. I don't know. I couldn't hear you very well, so I hear you a little bit. So.
Yeah, I think it's because of the background, because I can see you're working. If your background is not very clear, then that is fine. I can hear you, and I believe we do. We can hear you right. If you'd like to say something, please. I would like to give you a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Deng Elijah, and the whole of the visitors, and I welcome those two very important guests you have invited. It's very important you did that to all of them. We appreciate their contribution, and I'm very thankful to them. They're great-minded people. Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, we do.
So I'm sorry for interruption. If I may have not pleased your situation,
No, it's okay.
it's a mood of the day, the situation we are in across the globe. But first of all, my name is Jal Bielbapin. For those who do not know me very well, that's my name. You can see my name over there. And Deng Elijah, thank you for the time. I would have contributed a couple of minutes ago, but it was delayed. It's not your fault. The topic was about, can you elaborate what we were talking about again so that I do not...
Yeah, sure. We talk about multiple things, and I think we have exhausted them. But if you would like to say something briefly, we talk about peace in the country. We talk about elections. We also talk about a little bit about like we talk about corruption as well. We also mention some of the current affairs that are happening in the country. But the main topics for today was election and peace process in the country.
Okay. I am not happy with the system in South Sudan. I am not happy with the government.
All right.
They are failing the country, and they are misunderstanding. Tribalism, patriotism cannot move us forward. The system of governance in that country is poor. It's about tribalism. It's not professional. If we talk about peace, it has to come from our hearts. It cannot be negotiated in a very and successful way. And we cannot sugarcoat it. And the only group, the only identity, the only people I see that are really meaningful, that are doing the right thing in South Sudan, that are moving our country, trying to move our country forward, is an IO. To be honest with you right now, it is an IO that is making that country visible. It's not about the government. So the leadership is poor. The governance is not well constructed. So there's no vision in that country. And when we talk about election, what kind of election are we talking about? If our people are in deeply dislocated, they are in refugee camps, nobody at home. Okay, so what kind of election are we talking about? There's no way out. Like the roads are not there, so that it will be connected, and there's no safety and there's no security in that country. So what are we talking about here? Our brother mentioned earlier, I don't know his name, over here.
Wesley
He
Kosa.
brought up some very important messages. He talked much about peace and reconciliation. A country cannot move forward if there's no vision. The government has to be professional, moving forward, one identity. So we work together as one party. And there is people misconstrue that SPLMIO is not good. Then how can you tell me? How are you going to convince me that an SPLMIO is not good? What are you talking about? It's not always about war, misconception of ideas, ideologies. It's not good. And IO is not about war. It's about negotiation. At this time, we are not allowing any hostilities in that country. We don't want that. But we have to negotiate, right? We have to negotiate and move forward. So nobody wants to go to war. But these people in Juba, they are corrupted. But trust me, they will fall apart because they are not taking our country forward. Peace must come from our hearts, where all tribes are represented. There's no tribe bigger than the other tribes. We are all equal. We are all created equal. You cannot think that Dinka is bigger than the Nuer, or Nuer bigger than the Dinka, or Equatoria is this and that. Who tell you that? Equatorians are very important people. They are blessed like us. It's not about majority. It's about the vision, how to move the country forward. And also, we talk about election, which is baseless. It does not make sense. And the government, where these Kwalmanyang, Makwilwe, and all these things, the country cannot move forward. Such kind of people are still in the governance.
All right.
They're misleading our
Comrade
president.
John, I will.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Bany.
Okay.
For Deng Elijah, are you hearing me?
Yes, I do. But I really
Okay.
want you to wrap it up because we've been here for some times and we want to go too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. To move forward, and we talk about election, that's baseless. It's not a time for election. That's premature.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I right about that?
Yes, you are.
That is correct. If we talk about population, what kind of population are they talking in Warab? That is act of selfishness. It's untrue. It's not, it's really, it's not, there's no common idea on it. It's not a reality. Talking about population that the Warabi state is doubling almost 3 states. What kind of people, which kind of human beings are these, and where do they come from? Why are they making things up? So, but thank you for your time. We need peace, a legitimate peace in our hearts. A peace from our hearts, not a peace that we talk about. These people from Juba talking about peace is not in their heart. That's useless.
Thank you.
Deng Elijah, thank you for your kindness. And the rest of my colleagues, I'm happy with you. Your words are very powerful, and it will change the life of South Sudanese, the 2 very important gases. Thank you so much for being kind to me, and thank you for your forgiveness, and thank you for your love, and may you please move forward. And Deng Elijah, may God bless you.
Thank you.
That's a vision we are talking about that will move our country forward, to work together as one people.
All right. Thank you, Brother Dal, and may God bless you more.
You're welcome.
You talk of very important things, and these are the things that we try to put on a table. I call them common sense because I expect all of us to know these things. I'm very honest with this. I'm very sure none of the of the 2 guests would disagree with you too, and none of our viewers would disagree, because that is the common perception. These things are not like, there are so many things that need to be put in place, and the question is, how do we do it? So thank you, and I will let all of us go. It was a pleasure to host you today, Comrade Kosa. Thank you so much for coming. Honorable Pal, thank you for coming. Jalbiel Bapin, thank you for joining us late. And thank you to Honorable Malual Gabriel Kon. We appreciate all of you for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you. We hope to see you again soon. We hope to have another important discussion again soon. Thank you, and have a good day to all of you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Deng Elijah.
Thank you, Comrade Dal.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, Adisa, how you doing?